Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm so excited to have everyone in studio today and our special guest co-host, Dorothy-Inez del Tufo. And we're going to jump right into our grounding and our centering today, so that we can, because we've got lots of us on air today, so that we can get going on the radio. So I'm going to have everybody sit up nice and straight and tall and take 3 deep breaths, breathing in and out. In and out. In and out. I show up today as a leader in confidence, in calm, in peace. And I show up as a student here to learn, to be humble, to grow from all of the amazing giants that are on this call today. Nick?
Ditto.
That's it?
Love it.
I
Beautiful.
love it. That was beautiful.
I'll keep
You
going.
don't even have to say
What
anything
she
else. That
said.
was beautiful. What she said. Dorothy-Inez.
What he said. This is a really deep grounding today. Can I just say how grateful I am to just be here today, to just be alive and have breath in my body?
I love that. Thank you. Nicole?
Today I am calm. Today I am flow. Today I am impacting 100 million giants. Today I am present. And today I am calling in my ancestors and my guides to support me with speaking powerfully from my heart. And today I am absorbing and soaking in all of the great knowledge from our special guest co-host, Dorothy-Inez.
Beautiful. Thank you. Ryan?
Yes, I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be able to be here. Every time that Dorothy-Inez graces us with her presence, it is such a wonderful thing, and I can feel the energy. She is an amazing person, and we're so excited to have her so that we can share the messages that are in her heart with the world. And I'm grateful for you as Giants for showing up, and I am here to support and to help wherever needed.
Beautiful. Thank you. All right, my friends. We have about a minute to go before we go live on the radio show, but I want to say welcome to all of our social media followers. Lori is here and she says hello. We are so excited to be here today to talk about self-confidence and how to cultivate that self-confidence. This topic touches me personally. I don't know about the rest of you, but I have always found this one a difficult thing. So I'm so excited to be here today and be learning from all of you. Say hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello. I will introduce you all as soon as we go live here, and we're going to do that in one minute here. I'll let you know who all is in studio with me today.
I am grateful for the opportunity today. This is awesome. This is a great group. Yay.
I'm
so excited. Today. I don't know, some of my favorite people in the world right here. The only way this could be better if you were like in the same room.
Well, we've been saying that for a year.
Yeah.
When the heck can we finally get in the same room?
Someday. It is happening.
It's crazy to have business partners that you've never met.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Right?
We never met Nicole in person until just about a month ago.
She lives like a couple of miles away.
Yeah. It's crazy.
So I'm just playing our intro now on the radio station.
Best business partners ever.
Yeah.
All it took was a kilt night to get us together.
That's right. Kilt night.
Right.
I think next time I'm wearing a kilt.
Me too.
When in Rome.
When in Rome.
I didn't want hubby to know it was kilt night, which is why I didn't wear one.
Yeah.
Got about 10 seconds.
All right.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Wake Up with Giants show. I am Lady Luck and I'm joined in studio today by Nick the Gentle Giant, Ryan the Lion, Nicole the RPG, and our special guest co-host Dorothy-Inez del Tufo. I'm so excited to be here with everyone today to talk about how to cultivate self-confidence. And I'm going to shoot it right over to Nick to get us started today.
Yeah, such a great topic. Our show this morning, we had a TV show on Wake Up with Giants TV, and we talked about worthiness. And I think this ties right into that. Because confidence, when I think of the word confidence, right? The ability to confide in someone, to have that for yourself. Wow, what a concept, right? I might have confidence in others, but man, for myself, sometimes I find myself struggling. And so Dorothy-Inez, help us out here. Help us to gain that. What are your thoughts around self-confidence? What does it mean to you?
Well, self-confidence, what it means for me is really having that, to me, it's having that knowingness of who you are. It's really, for me, grounded in identity is how I see self-confidence. Yeah, that's what I'll say just on that question. That's how I see it.
Yeah. So identity, as somebody's developing that, part of that could be that lack of confidence in themselves as an identity, right? As who you see yourself as. And so do you feel like that ties into beliefs? And can you speak to that a little bit?
I do believe it ties into beliefs, and even studies, research shows it ties into that as well. What you believe about who you are, what you believe about what's possible for you, because out of that belief, your actions or inaction takes place, and so. Yeah, that's just that's.
Yeah,
I don't want to talk too much,
No, you're going to be perfect.
But I'm just gonna, go with the flow, and I'm just, as something else comes up. But for me, it's really, and when we chatted before, a lot of it for me goes back to this identity, and not just any identity, your spiritual identity.
Yeah, so I love the word belief. I think it comes from Glauben, like a Germanic word that means to hold dear. And there's some things that we hold dear that maybe don't serve us, So an insecurity would be that identity or that belief that I'm not good enough, I'm not worth it, I'm insecure. And usually, if we're in an insecure state, that to me says that we're moving towards survival mode. And this will go any direction this goes. So whatever comes up for you, just speak that. But, as far as survival state and that insecurity, what have you found to help people kind of move through that to kind of get their brains back? I know coming on a show as an example here, right? We might come in and come into the meeting beforehand. We're thinking about it and our minds are all spun up and then we get a little anxious. And then in that anxiety, our brain starts to shut down. And then we need a minute for it to calm down so we can get our brain back. And then all of a sudden we're just feeling good. Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. You bring up a lot of what got me into this work here, where you said, not enoughness. I mean, that's what stemmed this whole thing for me, is growing up, starting out life actually being abandoned at the age of 3. So that message of not enoughness and that I'm not lovable was there from the very onset in those key years. And so I've found, I don't know why I keep saying and so.
Nobody's judging it. You're good.
As a speaker, as a public speaker, I'm like, wow, you sure are saying and so a lot, girl. I'm trying to get my answer.
Yeah.
In my brain here, like you were talking about.
This is beautiful. This is an example of it, though, because as you speak, somebody that's maybe starting out in public speaking, as an example, might be a little nervous. And the first few times that they do it, their brain shuts down and they don't know. They get up there and they're just no words, no thoughts even. They're like, I don't even have anything to draw from. And so we have these filler things that kind of save us and buy us some time. And so even a thing like and then buys us a little time to get our brain going. And what will happen eventually, this is kind of like confidence, is eventually you'll get into that flow. And that's where I think the self-confidence comes in, is you get in that flow and it's
Absolutely.
like, I could do this forever. Yeah. Melissa, what came
Yeah.
up?
Yeah, I know. I love that she said that. Dorothy-Inez said that because when I first started working for Canada Customs, I was at the actual bridge. So I was that officer in the booth asking the questions. And so, we had mentors. And so they would stand behind us and make sure we asked all the questions at the right time and asked the right questions. We didn't let anyone go that we shouldn't let go and all that kind of stuff. And the same thing, I didn't have any self-confidence. I was an introvert, now standing there having to talk to people all day, right? And I was saying, and I was between every question that I would get the answer and I'd go, and that's the next question. Like I was thinking about it. And my mentor started calling me Melissa And. That was my nickname, Melissa And.
Yeah. It's a great name.
So long. Yeah.
There's something about being
remember.
observed. Yeah. When we're observed, so that confidence level can go away. So I don't know, this is off topic a little bit. There's this thing called the panopticon, and it was a prison designed where there's no privacy. You're always observed. They had to shut it down because it was so mentally taxing on the prisoners. It was actually unethical to do it. And sometimes in that space of feeling insecure when we're being observed, there's a space of over observation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you might have confidence, but the moment you get observed, it's like out the window. Or even that thought of being observed is like out the window.
I like the direction.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ryan.
You're good. You're good. I was just going to kick it right back to you too, is that I like the direction that you were going because, like self-confidence, like where do we learn that? Like, where do we learn, it's from the early years, right, of development. And you had talked about how, there was some abandonment issues going on. And so that affected your self-confidence. Could you talk to that a little bit? And then maybe we can explore how, the building blocks of self-confidence a little bit, and the direction of this. And I like the etymology of the words. Nick always gets into
he
this
always
stuff.
brings that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I have Google pulled up, so that's why I
So
feed
yeah.
Like
You told them all your secrets?
The Germanic background of this, because
Google has self-confidence.
Yeah, Google has it.
because did you say that the word something, it came from Glaub?
Yeah, Glauben, belief.
Yeah, and that's in German. In German, Glaub means think. Ich glaube nicht. I don't think so.
Okay.
I grew up in Germany, so I'm like,
Yeah, there we go.
See?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's where the word came from. Think, believe,
Yeah.
But just kind of going back to what Ryan's talking about, and it's just getting my mind, ticking just about how I believe we all come into this world confident, until the world and all these experiences start, teaching us something different. Because I think back, I got abandoned. My birth mother, left. Then my father was never around. Then I had a stepmom who, I hate calling her stepmom because we actually developed our relationship to a different level, but not being accepted by her. Then thinking about early relationships with even boyfriends and the constant sense of rejection over and over and over impacted how I feel and felt about myself, because people look at somebody who's perceived to be beautiful and they assume that you just have so much confidence. But what I learned in my own experience is that life tells us something else. But that's a part of all of that I've learned had to happen in order for me to do the work, to have the awakening, to become who I was meant to be. I hope all that made sense.
Oh yeah, that was good. Nicole, do you have some thoughts around that?
My thoughts, I've been thinking a lot about my daughter through this conversation and how confident she is and where did that come from? And I think a lot of it came from, I remember she was like 18 months old and we were at a water slide. And she had on her little life vest, but she got up to the top of the slide and she was like, "No, mommy, I go by myself." And she just went. And I was like, oh my gosh, my baby just is gone. And the way that I reacted to that with having her like she didn't get in trouble for that. It was like one of those things that like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you. You went down the water slide by yourself. Like her dad was at the bottom to catch her. So I could have played that both ways. But I see now how confident she is. She just got braces on for a second time, and her confidence has been completely rocked and shook. She was like, I just felt effortlessly beautiful, even with my crooked teeth. And now that she's got her braces on, that one thing has just really impacted her confidence. So I think that even no matter what your upbringing is, that it's still possible for something to come up in your life to give you that feeling of not enoughness or not lovableness. And it doesn't have to be anything anyone else says to you. It can be things that you say to yourself. I just thought it was interesting that it comes up for everyone. At least I feel that way anyways, that people struggle with it. And it doesn't have to be something that you were maybe raised with or impacted from a parent.
Yeah, I love that you said that, Nicole, because that's exactly what came up for me too. I had the thought while Dorothy-Inez was speaking was how much of that do we put on ourselves? How much of that comes from us and not external? I mean, I can recall doing that as a child to myself. My mom, I remember her telling me a story about, and I mean, I had impeccable grades when I was in elementary school, right? And I remember her telling me a story about my grandfather when she was my age. And she would bring a test paper home, and my grandfather, she'd get 98. And my grandfather's response would be, what happened to the other 2%? And he thought he was being funny, but she would tell me how this really affected her. Like she did so well, and he wanted to know where the other 2% was. In his mind, that was just like, a funny quip, and he was just having a joke with her. But in her mind, that really rocked her. And I almost took that on myself after hearing that story and put the pressure of that on myself when no one was putting that pressure on me. And so I that makes me think, it brought me back to that. And it makes me think, how many times do we put the pressure on ourselves? Do we take the self-confidence away from ourselves and make ourselves feel that way when there was nothing external around us?
This might be the hard thing too, is only always. We always do. We're the ones that get to interpret and bring it in. And so how do you transition though? Because it's easy to say that, oh yeah, it's me, it's up to me, I can change this. But how, when those stories feel so real and you've told them and they've been told to you and you start to believe them and re-speak those stories as though they're the truth, that can be really challenging to transition from where you're at to the new way of being.
And I think the key part too with that is, I always ask women, who talks to you the most? And you talk to you the most. So that inner dialogue is such a key part of developing confidence, as well as how we interpret situations. Like you were saying, Melissa, when somebody might say something to you, how you internalize that dictates the dialogue that we have inside. And that dialogue is often, I found, from something, an event that happened that maybe we didn't express, that we felt or thought that thing at that time. So let's just, what you triggered when you talked about, the funny joke is, I think when I was younger, every time I go to see my grandfather, he would automatically grab my little extra meat on my side. And I was like, at 5 and 6, always on the grapefruit diet, grapefruits and toast, So even though they might have made a little joke or something that they perceived as small, it always kept in my mind that I was fat. And when I go back and I look at those pictures, I'm like, wow, you weren't fat. But that was the message I was getting, but I never said out loud what was really going on the inside, the dialogue. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that just hit. Yeah.
Through that.
We talked about giving your internal dialogue a voice, and how that often shows up as anger. That people will get to the point that they feel so cornered in that feeling that they haven't expressed it. right? And to express something is to get it out, right? To get it out. And so we hold it in, and so it has to come out. It's like, this is kind of a gross analogy, but is it, right? It's like, it's got to pop at some point, like Dr. Pimple Popper. You're like, oh, gosh.
That's
What
so
kind of human?
disgusting. I hate that show.
But if you don't, it's going to come out, or it's going to fester. It's going to make you sick. And so being able to own who you are and express that fully and frequently keeps it clean. It keeps it clear. It's not like you need to go dump all your stuff on other people. It's just you're expressing what matters to you.
Right. And that's when you had asked earlier, like, what are some things that you can do to begin to shift that conversation, that way of thinking. And some of the things that I do, because as people, we're geared to look at the negative things in life. And if we want to find evidence that you're not good enough, you're not lovable, you can find all that evidence really fast. But have you ever noticed when you ask somebody to tell you something good about themselves, they struggle with that? And it's the same thing as like, try to find evidence. It's an exercise I give women to do is, I want you to create a folder full of evidence about how lovable you are, how awesome you are, whatever it is, how amazing you freaking are. So that when you have those moments, even like I have a board right here next to me that inspires and encourages me, accomplishments up here on the board. Because sometimes you've got to go back and remember. Like, I forgot that I even walked on fire with Tony Robbins until like about a month ago. I go, oh, shoot. Actually, I said another word. I forgot I did that, because sometimes you can get so caught up in the doing and all the accomplishments because you're trying to feel so worthy and so confident that you forget all the good stuff you've done.
I need a list of opposite words or other words that I can use instead of those swear words. So if
we'll get you that.
Send it over.
Yeah. Especially for the radio.
Yeah. I'm struggling here. I'm like wanting to drop some language, and it's like,
goodness.
I said shoot.
Yeah. And I love where you're going with that, Dorothy-Inez. I actually, when I started dating my partner right now, he asked me, he hadn't met my kids yet, and he asked me to write 500 words on each of my kids. Tell me what they're about, he said, in 500 words. And so I wrote this out for him, and he said, about every 6 months, I'm going to ask you for that again, because I want you to go back and read it yourself and see how that shifted from when you wrote it for me 6 months ago. And when you were talking about that, I thought, gosh, we should be doing that about ourselves. We should be writing that little 500 words about ourselves every 6 months and see where it shifts and how we can help it to shift. I love that you said that.
Yeah. That's and and I just wanted to add just really quick, so because I lose my train of thought, but you trigger the idea too that as women, going back to that identity piece, and I keep bringing up women because that's what I work with, but men, Ryan and Nick, tell me if men do this too. But I know women tend to get caught up in their roles, and mom and particularly mom, and then wife, and they forget who they are. And as they forget, who they are, that's when the confidence begins to dwindle away. And so when I've come, being a military spouse, I'd have to go out and do events, and I don't have children. And so I'd want to talk to women, and the only thing they could ever talk about was their kids, because they'd lost any sense of self. And so what you're saying, that's a beautiful exercise to remind yourself who you are. It's kind of bringing the two, what I said, and this idea that your partner gave, merging those two together. And just read it out loud. There's power in the voice and what you say and speak over yourself, because that creates reality.
Mm-hmm. What comes up for me is Stuart Smalley. If you remember Stuart Smalley, if you don't, go back and read it. It's the daily affirmations, and do you remember that stuff? He
Doggone
says,
it, I'm good
"I'm
enough.
good enough. I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like
Oh,
me."
yeah.
People like me.
You know, but that's not a natural thing, right? He has Michael Jordan do it, right? Michael Jordan's like the greatest of all time, and he
Right.
has him look in a mirror and do that same thing, and it comes off as a joke, but at the same time, like, we don't do that. Like, I that naturally we're really critical and hard on ourselves. So our inner voice, our inner mind is saying, "Oh, well, that's why, because you're not good enough. You didn't do this because of this." It's easier to think negative than it is positive. So the folder, right? Going back to that, like, I had
Mhm.
some inner child work that I was been working on this last week, and Carrie Tomich, she told me to write 50 things about Ryan that you love. And I'm like, uh,
Ryan
you
struggles
know,
with three.
yeah, I'm like,
I was like,
because
think about yourself.
Nicole, yeah,
Uh,
she told me, right, hey, what's 3 things you love about you? And I'm like,
I
you
think your
know,
socks were like my socks. I was like, no.
yeah, I had to have like Nicole come up with them because I was like struggling with 3, and I got to do 50, right? But this week I've been thinking about those things, and the list is getting longer, and I'm saying those things to myself. And when a situation comes up, if I catch myself going to the negative, I instantly flip that and I'm like, nope, 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 positive. And I'll say something positive about myself that relates to the circumstance or the situation, and it instantly shifts. And I think we need to do more of that. The more we can be aware. We talk about awareness a lot on Wake Up with Giants. The more that we can be aware, the quicker that we can change, and the more power and control that we can have inside of those situations, and we can grow and gain more self-confidence.
I'm gonna be the negative Nantucket. I was gonna say Nancy. Negative Nantucket. Because I see a different view here too. That's a possibility around a lack of confidence. Okay, so I'm borrowing from Alice in Wonderland. I try to feel a lack of self-confidence at least 6 times before breakfast. Now, it's not an intentional thing, but to open up the idea that we think we shouldn't be there, that we think we shouldn't feel insecurity, and we're human. And so to deny that would mean that we're never going to feel down. We are going to feel down. There's going to be times where things change and the world as you knew it isn't the same anymore.
That's
And
real
so
life, right?
that's
That's
real life.
real.
And so to be able to accept it, that, man, this is where I'm at. That's where I think we have the pushback is many of us think we shouldn't be there. We shouldn't be insecure. We shouldn't have that lack of confidence. And that's where the resistance comes in and keeps us stuck in that cycle of insecurity. Any thoughts around that?
I was
Yeah, you
thinking
know what
about
that brought up
schools. Oh, sorry, you go, Melissa.
Sorry, I was just going to say what that brought up for me is it reminded me of church this morning. Actually, it's funny in our priest's homily this morning. He was quoting the Alanis Morissette song. I've got one hand in my pocket, and he actually quoted that song, and basically the message was it doesn't matter what's going on, what's happening, everything is going to be all right. And I cried. I was sitting in church this morning crying at the end of his homily because that was the message. It doesn't matter, how bad things look, what's happening, whether it's good or bad, it doesn't matter what's happening in life, everything's going to be all right. And
I went to like the schools too, like so. And yes, I agree with that. Like the divine timing, you're here for a reason. You can learn from the experiences, and it can be okay. But in schools, we go into these schools, we talk to these kids, and the culture in a lot of schools these days, and is the participation trophy, right? Is to just, oh, it's okay, it'll be fine, and they don't want to talk about the hard things, that the real life stuff that can happen. It's all, oh, okay, how can we fix this? And this will be okay. And they just kind of tiptoe around like like walking on eggshells around feelings and emotions and thoughts and situations. When really we should be talking about, like Nick said, like, hey, I almost said another word. Stuff happens, right? Life happens. Life is real.
Yeah.
You are going to have life kick you in the teeth at some point in time, whatever that looks like for you. And to not talk about those things to a kindergarten or first grade, there's different levels of how you talk to them.
Of
You don't want
course,
to go
yeah.
right into like really deep, hard, like heavy stuff with a kindergartner. There's different levels of that.
Yeah, you
But
don't talk about divorce when they don't even like boys.
yeah, they don't even know. Like, there's a time and a place for all things. But to deny them of the realness of life and the realities that come in, and then how to handle those situations when they feel those things or when they're
Mhm.
going through those things, that's important. And I look back at my childhood development, and I miss some things like that. And it wasn't I had a great childhood. I had a good childhood. My parents were amazing. They're great people. But there was some things that now looking back on, I can go, ah, didn't get that the right way or the way that it needed to, or maybe it was the way it needed to, because now I'm figuring it out. So I've learned some experiences, but sure would have been nice to have somebody have a conversation with Ryan and say, hey, it's okay that you're feeling this way. Now,
Mhm.
what do we do about it? Let's talk about some solutions, and that this is real, that you're going to feel this way when you get left out, when you feel unworthy, when you feel that you don't have the self-confidence because of maybe the way that your body looks or the way that your personality is. And so let's talk about the different ways to handle those things and gain some more self-confidence. That's what came up as you were talking about that, Nick. But
Yeah.
Yeah,
think
and I love that you brought that up. We don't teach emotions or feelings and talk about them. You're next, Nicole. I gotcha. We don't teach about feelings or emotions, and I see that in my own kids too. We talk about feelings. We talk about why they're feeling that way and what to do to not feel that way. And my kids, I see them as like so well rounded and so incredibly forward in their intelligence because they can express their feelings. And I don't mean vocabulary or anything like that. I mean feelings they can express. My daughter can look at me in a rage at 7 years old. She could say that made me sad, right? She could tell me the feeling behind it and why she was frustrated or angry or whatever it was. There was always a feeling behind it, and they know how to express that. And I think that's lacking in a lot of people these days. Go ahead, Nicole.
I was just going to say, I think a lot of people forget that confidence comes from doing hard things and being successful at it. So we right now, I feel like our culture, we want kids, everybody to win and everybody to get that participation trophy. But the truth is that in order to establish confidence, you do hard things and you are successful at them. I think of my son was a sponsored skateboarder at 5, and he was like dropping into a half pipe, which was massively huge. And I didn't go lie to him and say like, you're not going to fall. It's not going to hurt. It was like, yeah, you're going to fall. You're going to drop into this. And it's a possibility that you're going to fall, but I believe in you and that you can do this. Mm-hmm. And I feel like my kids are so almost too confident because mom doesn't lie to them. Like my 19-year-old just bought a motorcycle, and he's like so confident about driving this motorcycle. And I'm like, but it's not you. It's like the other people on the road, right? But he's just like so confident because I didn't lie to them. It was like my daughter with the braces, like she's having to find a way to pay for that herself. As a 17-year-old, she turns 18 next month, $5,000. And I didn't lie to her and jump in to rescue her. It was like, you can create this. You can pay for these yourself. And then what happens? She gets braces on Wednesday. And by Friday, she has money for school and she has a new job to pay for her braces. But because of that, she's more confident in her ability to take care of herself. I just think that I feel like that's lacking a lot in our culture right now. I worry about my 11-year-old just because we want to save our kids from doing hard things.
I know we're getting close to the break, the maybe when we come back, I was just thinking about how we speak and how we are as parents and the words that we say, how that can influence our kids. We could talk
Yeah.
about some of those things because like and just a quick intro into that. We can talk about it more on the other side of the break. But I grew up and as I was growing into my body, I really grew into my body. I gained a bunch of weight, and I grew up being very skinny and very athletic. And then all of a sudden, it was like this 1 year period where wham, I instead of growing up, I grew out.
Mm.
And I would hear from my parents. My dad would say, he would call me Handsome Hank. I played baseball. I've written a little bit on this, on social media. But I heard Handsome Hank, Handsome Hank. You're so handsome, like you're amazing. You do all these things, and then gain the weight. And guess what? Stopped. I didn't hear that anymore. So as a seventh, eighth grader, you know, your whole life you've heard how amazing you are, handsome, 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 and skirt, it stops. What that can do now, it wasn't on purpose. My dad wasn't trying to be mean. He would still love me. He did still love me. It just stopped saying those words, and maybe that was because he didn't want me to feel, like something different. I don't know. I have no idea. I haven't had a conversation with him. Maybe I need to, but maybe we could talk about the psychology of some of this stuff on the other side of the break, if that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to take us to that break right now. So we're just on a 2-minute break there on the radio show, but we're still here on social media with all of our followers there.
My
So I
dog
feel like
And-
that's
out on the door, like whimpering, and then as soon as the door opens, you just got to come touch me, and then he's good.
he just
Right on,
needs
dude.
that self-confidence. He's
I
lacking
wanted
in it.
to go back. Yeah, I wanted to go back to something that Maria said too. I'm just looking for the.
Well, while you're doing that, I just wanted to say, Ryan, just the comment that you just made is exactly what we were talking about earlier, how we can take something that maybe the other person hasn't fully thought out and had no ill will about it, but how we internalized it, you probably didn't express to your parent how it made you feel that you didn't hear Handsome Hank anymore, but you internalize it in a certain way that impacted you, where you're, however young you are, it's still there in your mind.
Yeah, and that developmental state, learning how to handle how I perceive the other people are looking at me, in that development stage. I think I don't know if I skipped it. I think I skipped right over it. I just went into like just instead of knowing how to handle how my stories of how other people were judging me. I don't know that I ever fully grasped or learned how to manage that correctly. And so there's some components that were missed inside of that. And I don't know exactly. I still need to work on some of those things, and I still have those. I still make up stories of how people perceive me. Melissa, cut us off or tell us.
Yeah, we've got
10
seconds to go.
Okay, I'm going to pause right there, and we'll dive deeper into this. But
We will. Hello and welcome back to the Wake Up with Giants show. Today we're talking about how to cultivate self-confidence, and I'm so excited to be here in studio today with Ryan the Lion, Nick the Gentle Giant, Nicole, Cola the RPG, and our special guest co-host, Dorothy-Inez. And then, before we went on the break, we were talking about what our children see. And I just wanted to read out this comment by Maria. She said, "My kids will know my whole story so they can see how I have grown and my struggles and why I have them. My goal is to be an example on personal development." And I love that Maria said that, because that's exactly what Ryan left us off on before we went to the commercial break. And I agree with Maria. I let my kids in on everything that's happening, and not just the struggles, but why I use the strategies that I use, why I meditate, why I journal, why I do this or that, and the things that I see that happen, and the turns that I see that happen as a result of doing those things, so that they can understand what that looks like and how they can help themselves.
yeah, and then I like the tools. I love the tools that it provides those kiddos, because I know your kids meditate. I know they look at mom and go, oh,
Yeah.
okay, she's going through this. When I feel this way, when I have this experience, I can do XYZ as a tool. They can draw
Mhm.
from it. And the
Yeah.
more they see that, the more that they can mirror what you're doing and be able to move through. It doesn't mean that they don't experience hard things. The hard things still come in, but they have more options of more arrows in their quiver that they can pull from to be
And it
able to
doesn't
fire
mean
against
that,
a situation.
and it doesn't mean that mom's always calm too. Sometimes it's like, and do you see I'm yelling at you? Mom is going to have a timeout and go meditate. Right?
I probably need to put myself in timeout more often.
I was going to say too, I think it's important for kids to understand that everything isn't going to be easy, because if things were easy, there's no growth in easy. And so really understanding that piece. And one of the greatest lessons my spiritual mentor Michael Bernard Beckwith taught me is that life is always happening for us, that everything has come to teach. And, in every situation, every interaction is to teach. And then I'm in the role of teacher and in the role of student simultaneously in every situation. And that there is no good or perceived bad. It just is. And those things have to happen because it's what takes us to that next place, wherever we're supposed to evolve into. So that's taken a lot of stress off of me in life, because I've been able to be like, well, I'm just going to go with the flow because I know this is happening, because scripture, sounds like some of you are spiritual in here. I think all of you. Scripture says life is, not life's always happy. It says everything works together for the good. And so I really take that to heart, to know that everything, even the pain, is working for my good. And that has been a source of confidence for me as well, going back to that core belief system that I have.
I think of confidence here, like you go into a room, somebody's talking, somebody's speaking, you think, wow, they're confident. That person has a confidence. There might be times where the most confident person in the room doesn't say a word, and so defining what confidence looks like, what does it mean? It might be relative, it might be a subjective term, but going back kind of to Nicole's definition there of you feel comfortable, you can count on your abilities within a certain thing. You trust yourself, basically. Right.
Yeah. And I think to have a coach, because when my daughter navigating her through this, I had to remind her, like, do you remember this when you were 18 months old? Do you remember when you did this? I had to list out all of those things. Like when we talked about doing a list for ourselves, I think sometimes having a coach that has been there and seen that can help you build that list to remind you of who you are. When I got confidence to leave my corporate job, I literally went in and wrote down every hard thing that I had done that I didn't believe I could do at the time, but I overcame it. Because when we're in that fear state, we go into survival mode and we forget all that we've accomplished and all that we've done. And when the more you can step into, this is like Dorothy teaches, like when COVID was happening and Ryan and I were working together to get stuff, Dorothy was like, girl, call me. I was in the middle of a breakdown and she literally reminded me, Nicole, this is who you are. You are being divinely guided. You are divinely protected. But having someone else there like Dorothy, just, it was a huge comfort to me to know that she saw me.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you're just a light, so you can't not see you. But we all need to be reminded. And like you were saying, even like I teach confidence is my expertise, and yet there's many moments that I may not feel confident, and there's even this struggle within, because I'm supposed to be confident, like to the outside world, because this is what I teach. There's this struggle of sometimes I'm not confident. How do you express that to be vulnerable in those moments where you're not confident? And so I think I'm going to take this moment and have a vulnerable moment right now and share something that I haven't shared publicly at all. And for what, 20 years, I have, I left my corporate job back in, 20 years ago. What was that? 19? No, actually, it wasn't 20, maybe 15, because 2007, I left corporate and started traveling with my husband, who's military, and just working for myself or working, part-time in a corporate or in a makeup type job. And recently, I got offered a position, wasn't looking for a job, but I went in to see, you all know I'm a makeup artist, and I went in to see my old manager, and I walked in to see her at her new job, and she's like, Dorothy-Inez, I have the perfect position for you, training and coaching beauty consultants working at Macy's. And I was like, but I'm not looking for a job. But I decided to entertain the idea of regular income coming in, because coaching is up and down. And this job is utilizing all of my skill set. And it's something I always wanted before I was an entrepreneur. And so I said, well, I'm just going to entertain. And obviously I'm sharing this because I actually took the position. But when I took the position, what came up for me is I did not realize how my own confidence had been impacted from depending on someone else financially. And how just in the 2 weeks of saying yes to this new position that I'm adding into my world, how it's boosted my own, sense of self. And here I am, this enlightened one, and not even realizing that little piece was missing for me. And so you can have these blind spots. And that's why I think it's so important to be willing to do your work. You have to develop confidence. You have to be willing to do your inner work and be willing to address those blind spots that you have, weaknesses, whatever you want to call them, being open to looking at those, because that's where the growth happens. And I'm just like, I don't know why God brought this job, because I wasn't looking for it. I just went to say hi, girl, and I walked out with the
You're
job.
gonna start saying hi, girl, to a lot more people.
Yeah, hey, girl, And
when I say that, it doesn't work. Hey,
well, it don't work.
Doing it right, Nick.
Yeah, you might be under sexual harassment.
Yeah. I don't get jobs.
But just that awareness came up, and I was like, wow, it just the things that came up within me that I noticed just from saying yes to an opportunity that I wasn't looking for, and to be honest, a little fear, because, and I'm going to be honest, Ryan and Nick, I thought about you guys, because I thought to myself, my first thought was, how am I going to do my coaching business? Because I'm going to have a job. It's going to lock up my time. And then I thought of you guys, and how you guys have jobs, and yet you do all the things that you do.
Caffeine.
Lots of caffeine. Yeah.
Is that all I needed was caffeine?
Yeah. You talked about Michael Bernard Beckwith. He's on The Secret. Well, the real secret is caffeine.
Behind
it all.
You know what's funny is every time somebody says, 20 years ago, I go right to 1985. Like,
yeah, right. That's your 20 years in your head.
Oh yeah, 20 years ago. That's 1985.
Oh God, 20 years ago. Yeah, that was what was that? It was
2001.
It was 2000, because my son's gonna be 20 this year. He's 19.
Wow.
So when I was 20, my son turned 22. My oldest turned 22 last week.
Wow.
Like, yeah, I know exactly when you're talking about, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
I heard the other day, I was listening to just a thing had popped in, and I sent it to Nick. It's LeVar Burton, right? Reading Rainbow. Reading Rainbow. That guy.
Oh,
Remember
sing
that,
it,
everybody?
Ryan.
Yeah.
Sing it.
Butterflies in the sky. I can go twice as high. Take a look. That's probably copyrighted or something.
I'm judging you so hard right
Oh,
now.
you are?
You're gonna shut us
I watched a
down.
lot of Reading Rainbow.
Butterflies.
Anyway, so I was watching LeVar Burton. He's talking about a master class, and he's giving on public speaking, and okay, you look at him, and he's been in front of the camera for however long, since I was a little kid. He's been on what, Star Trek and all the different movies and TV commercials and roles that he's had as an actor. He said that he still, every time he gets up in front of an audience, guess what he feels?
Fear.
Fear.
Mhm.
Fear. And he went into that, and I'm not gonna spoil the ending, but it makes it that is what then gives you the choice and the growth to step into who you really can be and who you really are.
So I see a pattern in that. Continue, and then I'll share. But
LeVar Burton is the best. That's all I was going to say.
so courage has to occur
Oh.
in the space of fear, right?
LeVar Burton, if you're listening, there's a great book called The Giants and the Smalls. You should read that on. Wait, Reading Rainbow's not around anymore. But anyway,
on
Not
YouTube.
anymore.
The
Yeah.
reboot.
Yeah.
So the idea of courage is that you'll have courage when you go into fear. You can't have courage without fear. So you've got to feel fear to have courage. But confidence comes when you no longer feel that need for courage or fear. It's like that might be present, but it no longer impacts like it used to. You trust absolutely you can do the thing. So you might still have the chemical response come up, the adrenaline, but the confidence says, yeah, I got this. I can do this,
Yeah,
whatever
and
it is.
I'll speak to that
feeling
too.
of excitement.
Go ahead,
Go ahead.
It's the
Nicole.
same chemistry. It's just the same chemistry as as excited. You're nervous or you're excited. When you're confident, it's like you're excited to go, but it's the same chemicals in your body that are happening.
Yeah.
And I was just going to say, it's funny. I was going in to teach a library class, and I was starting this 8-week series at the beginning of the summer, and I've taught thousands of children since 2014. Okay, but I was so nervous the night before getting ready for this class because it was just the first time at this venue, right? And I told my partner I was so nervous, and he looked at me, and I'm expecting like, oh, don't worry, it's going to be okay. And he looked at me and he said, good. And I was like, what? I was taken aback. And he said, if you're not nervous, then you don't care. The fact that you're nervous tells me that you care about it. You have to be nervous and have that fear because you care. You're going to give it your all because you care. That fear and that nervousness has to be there in order to give it your all. And I was taken aback by that, but he's right.
And I'll say this, as having been a performer, that fear, I think every performer, Beyonce, Justin Bieber, all the ones I love.
Well, maybe not Beyonce.
Yeah, well, Beyonce, they all have that element of fear, and I remember when I go on stage, as a dancer, and I'd be so nervous, but like you're saying, Melissa, it was that the reason I was nervous when I get down to the core is because I cared, because I wanted to do a good job. If I didn't have that fear, it would just be probably half-aid performance because I'm just going through the motions, versus that fear gives me that little extra bit of adrenaline. And then when I studied the book, The Confidence Code, when I was doing my thesis work, it talks about she talked about the more, and I think Nicole was talking about this, the more you do something and you fail at it, that's like building that confidence muscle. Every time you say yes, even in spite of the fear, you're building that confidence muscle. Like Nick said, that you can say, even though I'm afraid, I got this. I can do this.
I like it.
And can I make one other comment? This is going way back to Ryan, where Ryan was talking about the mirror, and that mirror is so powerful to do your own mirror work, to stand in front of the mirror, because I remember when I started on this journey at the age of 40, which was a while ago. And one of the first exercises my self-love coach had me do was mirror work. And it was from, I think, Louise Hay, who's no longer with us. But standing in front of the mirror and affirming, looking into my eyes, not just saying random, affirmations, but really looking, I'd stand there and I'd look in my eyes and I'd say my name. Inez, that's what I went by then. Inez, I love you. And I'd say it 3 times, every affirmation. And each time I looked into my eyes and I said my name, followed by the affirmation. It was awakening something in me that before I knew it, as I was crying, because I was literally speaking to my soul. Because how often do we have somebody say your name followed by something positive? So there was something so powerful hearing my name and me speaking truth and life over myself. So I just want to say that's powerful work.
I hear something too, kind of a hidden message in this. Louise Hay passed away, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're all going to do that someday, potentially. I don't know anybody that hasn't, but she didn't let that stop her from creating a message that was so impactful in the world that it changed millions of lives.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But that idea that one day you're not going to be here, so what's the point? Right. The fear, I don't want to feel the fear. So what's the point? I don't like that feeling. Well, we all feel fear. The idea of death, we're all going to die one day. The idea is to do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's in that one, you're going to create a blessing for yourself, but also for others. But you're also going to develop over time this ability to do it with confidence. And who knows how it'll impact the world. I mean, that's our hope, is that it could, but we never know. Do it anyway. It doesn't matter.
Well, and I think too, what I think about is the legacy that's left. What you do, your legacy is what gives you eternal life on earth. I look at this man right here, Prince, who I love deeply. He's been gone 5 years, yet he is eternal because he gave the gift that God gave him of music, and he shared it, and he created. People didn't like his stuff. Right now, people, when I say Prince, they think of Purple Rain. Well, Prince created music way after 1984. He has an album coming out next week, and he's been gone 5 years. That's the kind of legacy that all of us need to want to leave behind. And that comes from stepping out confidently and fearlessly, feel like you said, feel that fear and do it anyways, because you never know who needs to hear that message, who needs to hear that song, who needs to hear whatever it is or see whatever it is you were put here to create. And so that's the kind of legacy that I hope we all want to leave behind. But it starts with just stepping out anyway in this thing we call confidence.
So there's a coach, and he's by the name of Steve Hardison, theultimatecoach.com. He talks. He's in his office. He sent me a picture this morning. I was trying to figure out how it related to me and what I was doing in life, and he sent me a picture, and it's a picture of Christ. Okay, so whether you're religious or not, you can see the image of Christ sitting. I think he's on a log or a stone. And his hand is like this. Sometimes we sit in the power position where we're sitting, holding our hands like this. Instead of just like the power position, he's got his hand and it's shaped like a heart. And then it says down below in a plaque, it says, "When I stand before God at the end of my life, I would hope that I would have not a single bit of talent left and could say, I used everything that you gave me." And that is what like something like a Prince, somebody like a Buddha, a Gandhi, the Mother Teresa, where they've given their time, their talents, their possessions, and laid it out, and it was for themselves and for others, and they used all of their talents, and that is the legacy builder. That is the thing that they'll be remembered for forever. Prince left an eternal talent in the music and the beauty that he created and the life that he lived, and and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and that's what, people say, we all have our why we do what we do. And I know people ask me, well, what's your why, Dorothy-Inez? What drives you? And I think I shared this on the show with you all before when we did it last year, is that my real driver, and it sounds so ultra spiritual, but it truly is that I see myself when I go before the Lord at the end, and the Lord looks and he says, well done, my good and faithful daughter. It's like that image of being before the throne in my mind is so powerful that it brings me to tears, that I actually feel the energy flow through me. And that's what drives me and makes me so relentless in the pursuit of what it is I'm here to do. And it's like we all have to find that thing, because that's what's going to help you to get up. That's what's going to help you to step out when you don't want to.
I love that. And I'm just looking at the time here. We have about 4 minutes until the end of our show. I'm
I've got an additional thought when you're done.
Yeah,
So.
and then I'm going to come back to you. I
Okay.
want to take a moment to thank everyone for being here today, and especially our guest co-host Dorothy-Inez. It's been a pleasure to have you here, and I'd like to go around the table and ask everyone for final thoughts. Nick,
Yeah,
go ahead.
perfect. Hey, that worked out actually really well.
Yeah.
The idea, whatever your purpose is, I think of Viktor Frankl. It doesn't, we all have different beliefs, different views. Some people believe in God, some people don't. It doesn't, that part doesn't matter. What matters is that you find and create some kind of purpose. And in that purpose, you'll be able to step into it, use that as your anchor for practicing confidence. We talk about cultivating confidence. It's all about practicing until it becomes second nature. So that's just my thought. It doesn't matter your beliefs. It matters what you create as a purpose.
Mm-hmm. Ryan, do you have any final thoughts?
I do, and I'll be quick, but I just wanted to say that is, if you're not feeling worthy or confident inside of where you're at right now, that you are, and it's a matter of find somebody that can help you to get to the place where you can feel that, so that you can understand how worthy you are, how amazing you are, how perfect and beautiful and wonderful, and what you have to offer to the world. Because there are people out there that have been giants in my life that I couldn't see it for myself. 40 years of not being able to see. I had blind spots that I couldn't see, but somebody else could, and then help me to unpack the things that my programming. Then one of them is on here, Nicole. Another one's on here, Melissa. Another one's on here, Dorothy. Another one's on here, Nick. And and a whole host of other people that have helped me little bit by little bit. I got around people that saw that, and then till I could see it for myself, and I'm still learning inside of that. So that would be my only thing. And Dorothy, I appreciate you, because every time you inspire me, the energy and the excitement for life that just exudes from you, and the want to help other people, is such a beautiful thing that you have. And so I appreciate your time for coming on today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I just wanted to piggyback off what, I don't know if it was Ryan or Nick, but to have literally have a confidence practice every day. It's like every day have one courageous action that you can take, because it truly is a practice to be confident.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. And I'm going to have to end us off there, but thank you again for everyone joining us in the studio today. Thank you for our wonderful guest co-host, Dorothy-Inez del Tufo. Next week, please join us again for our special episode with Rachel Smart and Alyssa Hart. They are members of the league, and they're going to be able to join us next week. And they are our guests coming on next week. How to harness stress and embrace a life of joy and wellness. That's what we're going to be covering next week. So please join us, and we'll talk to you then.
Love you too.
Love you guys.
So we're just playing our outro there. We're
Yay.
still on with all of our social media friends, so we can.
Hi, social media
Nicole
friends.
didn't get to you for a final comment, so if you have a final comment there, you can let all of our social media friends know.
I was going to piggyback off what Ryan said. Just Dorothy-Inez, what a powerful, powerful woman she is, and how much she has supported me with stepping into my light. She is a phenomenal coach. She has a women's group that is just very, very powerful. So get in touch with Dorothy-Inez. I promise you that it will make your life better. You will have more confidence. I'm just extremely grateful for her and her contribution to my journey.
Beautiful.
I love you, girl.
I love you, girl.
That's how you say it, Nick. Love you, girl.
Yeah, love
Hey,
you, girl.
You know,
just
I
I was going to say that I
love
should
you, girl.
unmute. Yeah, I love you, girl.
That comes off as creepy and weird.
Yeah.
When you say it like, I
My
love you,
face
girl.
is all red, like fingerprints. Like, you're weird.
Marie, thank you for being
Thank you,
on, and
Marie.
you've been amazing in the comments today, and we
Yeah, she
appreciate you
has.
being part of the tribe. And yeah.
And
Go
did
be
you see
giant. You're
Marie's
doing great.
comments? She happened to pot us this morning. I'll put that comment back up again. She happened to pot us this morning while she was scrolling through, and I love how that happens. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah,
So
join
I'll
us
say
on
the
the tribe
same
of
thing.
giants.
I'll say the same thing that Nicole just said about Dorothy-Inez, about Nicole, because I think Nicole has had that effect on me when it comes to self-confidence over the last year. And I've conducted myself in different ways and shown up in different ways because I've been able to find that self-confidence and turn the story around in my own head. So thank you to Nicole for that.
You guys all contribute to my confidence. All of you do. I don't notice until I talk that how much of you guys comes out of my mouth, or I'm like Nick Smith and Ryan Morris and Melissa Ross. It's just a huge contribution from all of you. So
We're family. That's what we do.
yeah.
Hana.
Hi, Capri.
Hello, Miss Capri.
Hi, Capri. I got to see you twice today.
I like how she crashes it at the end.
She crashes it. We've been doing knuckles. We've been doing this
Boom.
for like 5 minutes on the side over here. So
I love the confidence just to come in and be part of
Awesome.
it.
yeah.
You inspire me.
All right. So on
Guys,
that note,
thank
we're going to say goodbye to our social media friends, but we will let all of our social media friends know before we go that next week's episode, if you're looking to catch us on social media, will be taped on Wednesday night. So Wednesday night will be live in social media, and then the recording will be played on the radio show Sunday. So you can catch it twice if you want to listen to it again afterwards. But we will be live Wednesday night for next week's episode, and then the recording will be played on Sunday on Cat Country Radio. So you can check us out there. Thank you to all of you, and we wish you all a wonderful Sunday afternoon. Goodbye.